Karen's sneer could curdle milk from across the tarmac. She stood, a human blockade in the airplane aisle, her floral muumuu straining as she jabbed a sausage-like finger at the flight attendant. "This seat is a death trap," she bellowed, her voice bouncing off the cabin walls like a foghorn. The plane, a packed regional jet bound for Chicago, hadn't even taxied, but Karen's self-appointed safety czar was already waging war. Her sister, Darlene, equally rotund and sporting a matching scowl, egged her on from the adjacent seat, clutching a greasy fast food bag like a battle standard. The trouble started at boarding. Karen, who'd waddled onto the plane with the confidence of a dictator, had been assigned seat 14B, a middle seat in economy. To her, this was an insult, a personal attack by the airline, the universe, and everyone in between. "I'm a big woman, and I need space," she declared at the gate, loud enough for the entire terminal to hear. The gate agent, a wiry man with the patience of a saint, had explained that the flight was full. No upgrades. No extra seats. Karen's response? A theatrical huff and a promise to handle it herself. Now here she was, handling it. The flight attendant, a young woman named Mia with a tight ponytail and an even tighter smile, stood her ground. "Ma'am, you need to take your seat. We can't push back until everyone's seated." Her tone was calm, professional, but Karen wasn't having it. She planted her feet wider, her bulk filling the aisle, and crossed her arms. "I'm not sitting in that coffin. It's a safety hazard. My hips won't fit, and I'll sue if I get hurt." Darlene chimed in, her voice a nasal echo. "She's right. You're discriminating against plus-sized women. We'll have your job." The sisters' tandem outrage was a performance, honed over years of bullying cashiers, waiters, and anyone who dared cross them. Passengers nearby shifted uncomfortably. An elderly woman in 14A, clutching a worn handbag, looked like she might cry. A businessman in 14C, his laptop half open, muttered under his breath, "Just sit down, lady." Karen's eyes narrowed, catching the businessman's words. "What did you say?" she snapped, turning her glare on him. "You think this is funny? You want me to suffocate in that seat? Typical man, thinking you know everything." The businessman, caught off guard, raised his hands in surrender. "I just want to get to Chicago," he said, exasperation creeping into his voice. But Karen was on a roll, her voice rising to a pitch that made the overhead bins rattle. "This airline is a disgrace. I'm not moving until I get a better seat." Mia, the flight attendant, tried again. "Ma'am, I understand your concern, but we're fully booked. If you don't sit, we'll have to delay the flight." Karen's response was a scoff so loud it could have woken a coma patient. "Delay it then. I'm not risking my life for your schedule." Darlene nodded vigorously, crumbs from her fast food bag sprinkling onto her lap. "We know our rights," she added, waving a half-eaten burger for emphasis. The cabin was a pressure cooker now. Passengers whispered to each other, some annoyed, others amused. A teenager a few rows back started filming on his phone, sensing viral content. The elderly woman in 14A finally spoke, her voice trembling. "Please, I just want to see my grandkids. Can we all just calm down?" Karen rounded on her, eyes blazing. "Calm down? You're fine, old lady. You don't have to deal with these tiny seats." The cruelty in her tone was a gut punch, and the elderly woman shrank back, clutching her bag tighter. Mia's patience was fraying. She pressed a button on her headset, speaking quietly to the cockpit. Moments later, the captain's voice crackled over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a slight delay due to a passenger issue. Please remain seated." The word issue hung in the air, and all eyes turned to Karen, who seemed to relish the attention. "See," she crowed. "They're listening now." But the universe had other plans. The cabin door, still open for last-minute preparations, swung wider as two airport security officers stepped aboard. They were burly, no-nonsense types, their badges glinting under the cabin lights. The lead officer, a man with a buzz cut and a voice like gravel, addressed Karen directly. "Ma'am, you need to take your seat or leave the aircraft." His tone left no room for negotiation. Karen's bravado faltered, but only for a second. "Leave? I paid for this flight. You can't make me." she shouted, her face reddening. Darlene, sensing the tide turning, tried to back her up. This is harassment. We'll sue. But the officer was unmoved. Ma'am, you're disrupting a federal operation. Sit down, or we'll escort you off. The word federal hit like a sledgehammer. Karen's smirk vanished, replaced by a flicker of panic. The businessman in 14C, now openly annoyed, piped up. Just sit down, or get off. You're holding us all hostage. A murmur of agreement rippled through the cabin. The teenager's phone was still rolling, capturing every second of Karen's unraveling. Mia stepped back, letting the officers take over. The second officer, a woman with a sharp gaze, moved closer. Last chance, she said. Sit, or we cuff you. Karen's eyes darted between the officers, Mia, and the passengers now openly staring. For a moment, it seemed she might comply. But Karen was Karen, and backing down wasn't in her playbook. This is outrageous, she screamed, throwing her hands up. I'm calling my lawyer. She reached for her phone, but her sudden movement startled the elderly woman in 14A, who gasped and dropped her hand back. The bag spilled open, revealing a small photo of two smiling children. The sight was a quiet rebuke to Karen's tantrum, but she didn't notice. She was too busy dialing. That was her mistake. The lead officer had had enough. All right, ma'am, you're done. In one swift motion, he grabbed her arm, pulling it behind her back. Karen shrieked, a sound that could have shattered glass. Get off me. This is assault. Darlene leapt to her feet, burger forgotten, and started yelling too. You can't do this. We're victims. But the second officer was already on her, guiding her toward the door with a firm grip. The cabin erupted in chaos. Passengers clapped, some jeered, others just watched in stunned silence as Karen and Darlene were marched off the plane, Karen still screaming about lawsuits and discrimination. The teenager's video was already halfway to TikTok fame. Mia, visibly relieved, began helping the elderly woman gather her spilled belongings, offering a quiet apology. The businessman leaned back, muttering, about time. As the cabin door closed and the plane finally taxied, a strange calm settled over the passengers. The elderly woman, now composed, pulled out the photo of her grandkids and smiled softly. The businessman opened his laptop again, shaking his head. The teenager was already scrolling through comments on his video, grinning. Karen and Darlene, meanwhile, were in the terminal, facing a very different reality. Handcuffs, a police report, and a ban from the airline. The captain's voice came over the intercom again. Folks, we're cleared for takeoff. Sorry for the delay, but we're good now. A few passengers chuckled. The elderly woman tucked her photo away, whispering to herself, some people just don't get it. And she was right. Karen and Darlene had demanded the world bend to their whims, but the world had other ideas. Sometimes, karma doesn't just knock, it kicks the door down. The end.